It is that nature of our human mind, when it hasn't been properly trained, to always see what's wrong in things rather than what is right. And that attitude causes a lot of depression. I'm going to have to ask you to excuse me, though, who come here every week for the last 10 or 20 years. Many of you have heard these stories before, but because this is a talk on depression and many people are going to hear this for the first time, one of the classic stories is that story of the two bad bricks in the wall. On Tuesday night I was in Brisbane. First time I've been to Brisbane to give talks. And one of the people having question time said, Ajahn Brahm, I've read that story, I've heard it many times, can you please tell it again? I just want to hear it live. So I told that story, and it's a deep story, simple, but it actually points out what I'm talking about. The story of the two bad bricks in the wall, 26 years ago, 27 years ago, when we moved to Serpentine to build that monastery down there. We had no money, we were broke, and because we owed money for the land. There was no buildings on that property, so I had to learn how to build. And I was a theoretical physicist before, okay, in my head doing sums all day. Now I had to get out there and get my hands dirty and mix concrete and lay bricks and put on a roof and do plumbing, everything we did. And even to this day, if any of you go into that main hall in our monastery, I am the builder. My name is on the building license for that. And it's still standing, so that's pretty good. So in particular, this story, I had to learn how to lay bricks. Laying bricks was not a simple thing to do. It may look easy, but it's so hard to get everything level. But, as most people would be, I was a perfectionist. I had to make sure that brick was perfectly level before I went on to the next one. Sometimes one corner was high, you'd knock it down, and another corner would go up. You knock that corner down, then it would go out of line. You knock it back into line again, thinking it was finished, you notice one of the corners was high again. It was just one of those jobs which, you couldn't get everything in the right place, but you kept on trying until you got it. It took a long time, but it didn't matter because I wasn't being paid. So I could take however long I wanted. And when I finished that wall, that first brick wall, like anybody else, you were proud, finished, you stood back to look at it and admire it. And it was only then, when it was finished, I noticed that two bricks were crooked. And all the other bricks were straight, two bricks were crooked. So what would you do? What I did was try and scrape the mortar out so I could reset the bricks so they could be perfect. But the mortar was hard, you couldn't scrape it out. And the other monk was with me at the time, Ajahn, I asked him, look, can we please afford some dynamite so I can blow it up and start again? Bulldozer would do, push it over. Because that spoiled the whole wall. Those two bad bricks, they ruined the whole thing. But we couldn't. I was stuck with it. We were too poor to do anything with it. So for 3 months, every time I went past that wall, I saw my mistakes. And I felt so sad. I'd stuffed up. And the worst thing about stuffing up when you're building, everybody could see it. You can't hide it. It's a big wall out there in the open. So, every time there was a visitor, I would actually volunteer to take them around. So I could take them somewhere else so they wouldn't see my mistakes. At night time, I'd have nightmares about that wall. I'd dream of it. Because I'd really made a big mistake and everybody could see it. And it was 3 months, roughly, I'm not quite sure, it's a long time ago now, about 3 months, somebody else was with me and they saw that wall and they said, that's a beautiful wall. And I just couldn't believe what I heard. Because for 3 months I'd been suffering so much with that wall. And they said, it's a beautiful wall. My first reaction was to ask them, are you visually impaired? Are you blind? Did you leave your glasses in the car? Can't you see those two bad bricks, the crooked ones? And what they said next just changed much of the way I look at life and stopped a lot of inherent depression in myself. What they said, yes, I can see the two bad bricks, but I can also see the 998 good bricks as well. And that really hit me. Because I realized for 3 months I was blind. All I ever saw was my two mistakes. And I just could not see all the beautiful, perfect bricks which I had laid. And when that guy told me, what about the 998 good bricks? That was the first time in 3 months that I could actually see the bricks above, below, to the left and the right of my 2 mistakes. And I had to agree with the fellow. It was a beautiful wall. Once I could see the whole picture. And I realized, why is it, our psychology, where do we get this from? That we just see our 2 mistakes and we become blind to everything else we've ever done. Right? Every other part of that relationship, that life, that project, we just see 1 or 2 mistakes, and that totally obsesses us to the point where I wanted to destroy that wall. I wanted to blow it up. Now can you understand what depression comes from? A lot of times, mistakes happen in life, tragedies occur, a loved one dies, you get cancer, you lose your job, lose everything in the stock market. One day you're Prime Minister, next day you're not. So you can see it's very easy to get depressed. If all you see is just that one event, that 1 or 2 bad bricks,